So let's jump right in. So here's today's agenda. Quick recap of last week, a quick welcome to all of our new people in the community. This week we'll end up skipping the lead maintainer update because Hezheng is unable to join us. However, I will also introduce you guys to something that I think is really exciting for DevLake, which is our new bug bounty program, sorry, our template bounty program. So it's a really exciting way for you guys to really add a ton of value to DevLake, get creative, get clever with your code, especially if you're good with SQL, and get paid for it. So I'll introduce that to you guys in just a second. Before I jump in, I just wanted to acknowledge some of our new exciting community members. I'm sure this isn't all of you, but these are some of our new friends from last week who I'm really excited to make part of our community. A special shout out, of course, to Shabam. Shabam was our very first person, so technically he's in the wrong list here, but I didn't want to exclude him from our weekly shout outs. So let's jump right in, yeah? Let's kind of get straight to some exciting materials. So this is a new program that we're testing out, and this is something that is opportunity only for open source huddle community members. Though do feel free to introduce it to your friends, and if they join in on our weekly huddles, jump into the Slack, they're certainly eligible for this program. So be sure to ask questions, be sure to invite people. I'm really excited about this particular opportunity for everybody. So what is the dashboard template bounty program? So as you can see, this is a beta program. So we're still going to be testing out the best way to do this. So you'll have to be patient as we kind of figure out what the kind of all the rules are and how we best navigate this. But here's the goal. So for those of you who have got deep into DevLake, you have probably understood that a big part of the value of DevLake really comes from your ability to create interesting kind of use case driven dashboards and scenarios. So what I mean by that is we've found some of the most exciting applications of DevLake happen when a user has some kind of really, really clear objective that they're trying to achieve. Maybe they're trying to understand the performance of their application through things like uptime, more kind of observability type things, right? In other cases, right, perhaps they're looking to really focus, as the example I have on the screen here, with like a weekly bug retrospective, which is this dashboard we created here for one of our favorite partners. So in this case, a really focused dashboard that lets the team come together, assess what bugs were created last week, what bugs were solved last week, what are the most kind of top priority ones in this current week, and what does our kind of backlog and stack of existing bugs look like. So that's what this template is solving. So we basically want to create many more of these, and we want to do that so that we can make it even easier for our users around the world, right, to get right up to speed with DevLake. So instead of having to create their own dashboards, create their own templates, we provide them with essentially a list, you know, a kind of app store of templates, if you will, of all different scenarios, all different kind of goals to help people make good sense of it. So pretty simple process here. Certainly feel free to screenshot this for your own kind of memories. Happy to share this with everybody, and we'll be chatting about it in Slack, of course. But it's a pretty simple approach. Step one is for you to really brainstorm a use case. So that use case could be like technical retrospectives, for example. It could be you know, kind of failure state postmortems, whatever it is, right? Think about different ways that you might use DevLake in a team, or in assessing the health of a project, or assessing the strength of an open source community. Let your imagination go crazy, right? But that's the goal, is think up and design and build a template for DevLake that addresses a use case. Then all you have to do is submit your dashboard to probably the best points of contact will be myself or Hezheng, but really anyone that's a DevLake maintainer, submit it to them, and they'll pull it into the process. If the template gets approved, we'll end up incorporating it into the next release so that it's available for DevLake users everywhere. And as soon as it's been approved, you'll get $400, that's US dollars, as a reward and as a thank you. And I will be certainly sure to give you a cheesy virtual high five there. So a quick few final pieces on that, kind of the quick rules. So I think you can all trust that we're going to try and be as kind of as supportive and welcoming of this as possible. So I wanted to make sure the rules kind of felt like they were aligned with that. So the rules aren't too challenging. First and foremost, the template has to be kind of reasonable and practical. So really all we mean by that is that in some way you can really explain to us, or we could explain to other people, how the template supports kind of a known use case or a known scenario that a typical engineer or a typical engineering team might encounter. We certainly kind of want to stay away from kind of really super unique edge cases, or perhaps more kind of hypothetical use cases that maybe they're cool in their idea, but maybe not so useful for people. So I think the key thing to interpret here is do your best to make sure they're useful. Do your best to make sure there's something that you could explain to another engineer that would make sense to them. And I think if that is the case, you'll certainly pass through the rule. The second rule, out of practicality, of course, we always like to say that DevLake is limited only by its data connectors and by your imagination, right? So this rule number 2 kind of addresses this piece. We want to make sure that the data can be fed into the dashboard. So it has to be something that works with the data sources that DevLake already supports, or you can develop your own connectors, which is something we've created documentation for, and that certainly the project has a goal for. DevLake has this big goal, right, of being able to support data analysis, visualization, and queries from any data source in the future. But right now, of course, we're limited to a handful of them. So if you are thinking about developing a new data connection, send me a message on Slack, because that's something we can definitely help you with. It's something we'll definitely reward you for. So feel free to develop new connectors, and you'll be receiving a bonus. So we definitely want to chat about that. But do keep this in mind, that if you don't want to develop a new connector, to focus on the ones that are already supported. And then last and not least, as I mentioned, the template has to be approved by the team, of course. We'll go through our basic checks, right? We'll make sure that it makes sense. We'll make sure that the queries work, and that the data that is output actually works, that the math is correct. Hopefully with the power, of SQL and Grafana, that should be fairly easy. But those are the key rules here. So I'm really excited to be releasing this this bounty program to the community here. As I mentioned, it's in its very early stages. This is the first time we've even discussed this with anybody outside of our core team. So you're the first to hear about it here on the weekly huddle. So I'm going to pause there for 2 things: to see what questions you guys might have, and then also to welcome my good friend and collaborator here, Hezheng, who is able to join. Hezheng, I don't know if you still have connectivity or power, so no pressure if you can't present anything, but glad to have you here. And I'll take questions from the team here to see.
So my apologies, everyone. So I wake up this morning and found out that we have a power outage in my area. So my laptop doesn't have any connectivity and my alarm didn't go off, but I was able to wake up just right on time. But so I borrowed a phone from my girlfriend who still has 50% of power, and lend a hotspot to my laptop to connect to this call. So really excited to see everyone on the community meetup. So to ensure my sound quality is good, I I won't turn on my video today, but I'm excited to go through the agenda items for today's meeting.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks so much, Hezheng. And amazing that you managed to navigate that challenge, especially I know with it as early as it is here in California, I would have struggled to wake up without the alarm today. So to quickly recap then, Hezheng, we welcomed some of our new community members who came in last week. Really exciting progress, guys. We've really been growing, and each and every one of you is so important. I know that sounds kind of silly, but I really want to kind of give you this like sincere thank you and this kind of sincere congratulations to our community. Open source is ultimately the people that build it, and we're so grateful to have all of you here in this team. So thanks for that. And then we introduced the really exciting template bounty program, which everyone on this call is definitely eligible for. Invite others, like I said, and then they can be part of this too if they're interested. Really cool opportunity to make an enormously huge impact on the usability of DevLake, as well as to make some money while doing it. We want to make sure we're taking care of people who are making this effort to support such an important part of this. So Hezheng, I'll kind of pull my screen back up on the agenda. I know you're limited in what you can cover because of your tech issues today, and we can certainly kind of roll any of your more detailed updates or kind of slides for next week. But I'll pull this up, and then whatever you're up for chatting about as far as kind of
I have a new version of the slides.
Awesome. Do you want to are you able to pull it up, or do you want to send it to me? Awesome.
Let me share the screen.
There we go. And our nice brand new logo.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess you have already covered this part.
Exactly.
Okay, so then I'll talk more about, introduction to ASF and Apache Incubator, and also our upcoming release. And then I'll leave it to Clash to talk about the first good issues and how can contributors get started with DevLake.
Awesome.
So I bet Maxim has already made announcement of DevLake joining Apache Incubator. So for this community huddle, I want to take some time and talk about, what is ASF, what is Apache Incubator, why do we join them, and what are the next steps for DevLake to further grow. So the ASF, I'm sure many of you are already familiar with it, is an American nonprofit corporation with the mission of producing software for the public good. And there are so many projects that we're familiar with that are under the umbrella of Apache, our software foundation, including like the OG, HTTP server, and and Apache Spark, Apache Maven, Apache Subversion, and so on and so on. So there are roughly about 300 plus top level projects right now in Apache Software Foundation, and around 37 podlings in the Apache Incubator, and we are one of them. So what does the ASF do exactly? We can run the open source project without any issue just on GitHub, right? So why bother all these efforts to join the ASF? So the idea of ASF is to let developers focus on what they are best at, which is development, and take care of everything else. So they provide infra for open source project, like website, code repositories, mailing list, bug tracking services. So this might not sound that sexy because now we have GitHub, right? But before, ASF was founded in 1999, so we can't take code repositories even for granted. They were using SVN back then and provide a service for everybody to collaborate. Besides those infra, ASF also provide legal support, fundraising support for the project. And most importantly, mentorship from passionate members with amazing experience in making open source projects work, like our mentors. Our mentors have given us tremendous guidance in the process of joining Apache Incubator. So special thanks for them, really grateful. So next, I want to talk about the Apache Incubator. So Apache Incubator helps this incoming projects, called podlings, adopt the Apache style of governance and operation and guide them to the ASF service available to our projects so that they can become top-level ASF projects. So you can basically think of this as, the Jedi Order, right? This is where, Jedi Padawans get training and eventually become the Jedi Knights, which is top-level ASF project. And we are excited to go through this process and learn the Apache style of governance and operation, which is, also called the Apache Way, to how to build a successful open source project and vibrant and inclusive community around DevLake. So what exactly is the Apache Way? So there's no rigid definition. That's important. On the Apache website, there's a page which includes, many Apache members' definition of the Apache Way. But there's something common between everybody's definition, is that the project or the community need to embrace the following nice properties or principles. So let me quickly go through them one by one. First is earned authority. So everyone in the community is given the same opportunity to participate, but your impact in the community is based on the merit or how much contribution you make to the community, right? So put another way, the governance model of Apache is meritocracy. The more contribution you make to the project, the more impact you have in the community. And fun fact here, Marico's name is also coming from meritocracy. So you can see the alignment here from the very beginning between the original company that gave birth to DevLake and Apache Foundation. The second principle here is community of peers. So individuals participate at ASF and not organizations. So this is a mindset shift that our team members will have to go through. And an important note is that benevolent dictators for life are disallowed in Apache. So this is very different from other open source projects that you might see on GitHub, right? Like if a person started a GitHub project as open source project, that person essentially is the benevolent dictator for life because they are the creator of that project. They essentially have a say, have the final power to determine everything for that project. That's the BDFL, very famous term in open source, but that's not the case in Apache. In Apache, every community member holds the same power. Each one of them has one vote. We can talk more about the voting part later, but we don't allow benevolent dictators for life. Thirdly, it's about open communication. So everything, all the important discussion should happen in the open and ideally on the mailing list. So there are a number of mailing lists that we should all subscribe to if we're interested in contributing to DevLake. Most importantly is the dev at devlake.apache.org. This is the channel for discussing primary project development. So this is another shift that we are going through. We're still trying to figure out how to strike a balance between using GitHub issues for technical discussion or using the dev mailing list for discussion. But either way, everybody here, I highly encourage you to subscribe to this mailing list. Yeah. And a famous mantra of Apache Member is that if it doesn't happen on list, it didn't happen. So this is how much they value the communication. Third is the consensus decision making. So here, people, vote on various things in Apache Software Foundation, including, which podling to accept into the incubator, releases, code, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a famous rule of 3 and 72. So every vote requires at least 3 voters to ensure that it's a true community, and also 72 hours, for the voters to vote. So this also should accommodate, weekend and long weekend, and error on the side of caution. And lastly is the responsible oversight. So this means that everybody, is responsible for what the project or the community do, and should, exercise proper oversight over the community. So that is the 5 principles of the Apache Way, and you can find more resources online. Yeah. So what we have done from entering the incubator. So we have already gone through this process. You can see the 3 phases. So we have bootstrapped our podling.xml, so adding ourselves into the podling, setting up our mailing list in the 2nd phase, and eventually last week we migrated our repository from Miracle.dev organization to Apache organization, and also set up our website. So you can now visit our website at devlake.apache.org. So we have done laid the foundation to keep going in the incubator. And next, I want to talk about what's next, right? How's this, Jedi Order look, and how do we graduate from the incubator to become a Jedi Knight? So on their website, there's a graduation checklist. So I'm not sure if the text is large enough to see here. So you can go through the list in detail if you're interested. But if you trust me, basically one of the most important requirement is community readiness. So demonstrate that you have a vibrant community. So including there are a lot of users using your software, and there are a decent number of contributors to your project. So that's the most important part from the graduation checklist. So to talk about that, I need to first talk about the roles in the Apache project. When we talk about community, what are the roles in the community, right? And how do the roles, transition from one role to another? So here I listed all the roles in the community, and let's start from the user, right? So this is probably the where one gets started is starting from using the software. And if the user, later on finds some issue of the software, and then they want to scratch their own itch, and then contributed a pull request, and the pull request got merged, then the user becomes a developer. And if that developer continue making, valuable contribution to the community, and the contributor can be elected to become a committer, at this point, the committer would have write access to our DevLake repository, and be able to, maybe do code reviews for other developers and merge pull requests. And a committer can further be elected to be one of the PMC member. This is short for Project Management Committee. So PMC member can make decisions and vote on critical decisions for this project. And eventually, we will also elect one PMC member to be our PMC chair, which is, which still holds one vote to be noted here, but is leading the efforts, for these discussions. Yeah. So these are the 5 roles in the community, and we're really looking forward to, in helping our users who are interested in DevLake transition from user to developer and to committer, and maybe eventually PMC member. So this is, what our community building efforts will be focusing on. So if you have any question, how to, navigate in this process of how you can become a developer committer, let us know. This is what we are, really focusing on, investing our efforts in, and we really value. So that's the roles and how you can transition. So that's all about, the Apache software foundation and the Apache Incubator. What are the next steps for us? and for all of our users and the contributors. Next, I'm going to talk about upcoming release. So one important course or lesson in Apache Incubator is learn how to make Apache release that's compliant with Apache license and Apache Software Foundation legal requirement. So we are going to also go through the process and learn it ourselves in this coming release v0.11. So in this release, quick highlight of some of the features we have. We add a new data source. It's TAPD. It's a project management tool, very popular in China, developed by Tencent, the alternative to Jira. Secondly, we support PostgreSQL as a data storage option in addition to MySQL, so providing even more option for our users. Thirdly, we add proper unit tests for key component like API collector to ensure that we can, the quality of the software. And lastly, is there's some, docs, update, bug fixes, refactors. We closed about 90 issues from v0.10 to v0.11. And here I included a screenshot of, some of the reasons that a release might not pass the vote of the Apache Incubator. As you can see, mostly it's because that, there's some maybe unexpected binary in source release. There's some incompatible licensed software in the release. So that's something that the team will need to pay extra attention to when we make the release. And about 70% of the releases will pass the vote in the first attempt in Apache Incubator. So that's all on my part for today. And I'll leave the quick glance at good first issues to our community member, Clash. So Clash, if you're able to take the mic, let us know.
This is amazing. Really well done, Hezheng, and thanks for giving such a great overview of the Apache process. I feel like we kind of need to open source those 4 slides to give insights to people on like what that process looks like. So I'll chat with you. Maybe we'll publish that as a blog. That would be really cool.
Awesome.
Clash, thanks so much for joining us. And awesome to have a community member presenting today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, nice. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I can help but feel we are thriving much faster than I ever imagined. So before we go through our good first issue of the week, I would like to review our previous huddle. So last week we had 2 designated good first issue listed out for everyone in a first come first serve manner, which was fun, and they were taken almost instantly. But this is not so fun for those who were interested and failed to get one, right? So we decided no more competition. We can you now can pick whatever you like from our GitHub issue page, or even create your own issue if no more issue left. Okay. Yeah, we are a community after all. So yeah. So how do we proceed? Let me share my screen. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, Hezheng, you'll need to take your screen down, my friend, and then Clash, you should be able to pull yours up.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. it looks like Clash just needs to reconnect. I think his.
Yeah, so maybe we can take the time to answer some questions. So
Yeah,
I see
sure.
Shubham asking the chat, like, which standard format do you use in the DevLake repository?
Yeah, Shubham, I just pulled you up on stage so you can unmute and ask the question that way if it's easier.
Like my question is like very simple. Like which standard format we are using? Like in DevStream, we are using some Golang standard layouts. Is that similar in DevLake also? We are using some standard layout. So I could go through that and figure out what packages should contain what amount, like what things it should have.
So by layout, Shubham, do you refer to like the code directory or directory structure?
The directory structure. Directory structure. In DevStream, it was like pretty simple. I talked to Hezheng and he said like we have a standard Golang layout. But, what is the like directory structure of in DevLake?
Yes. So I think it's gonna be pretty similar to DevStream because we are using the same plugin system. Yeah, I don't think we are intentionally following any standard format. If you have any suggestion, we are open to looking into it. But I think overall the directory structure should be similar to DevStream if you're already familiar with it, because we're using the same plugin system.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome question.
Thank you, Shubham.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yeah, so for those that missed Shubham's question, it was about the format of the kind of directory layout, and Hezheng, maybe we can write up kind of a super brief answer to that question also to share in the Slack later to build out our documentation too. So good question. All right, and I think we might have unfortunately lost Clash. It's showing on my end he's still connecting to the audio. Oh, another good question here from Sanskar. So Sanskar just asked us when describing the DevLake bounty program, does it mean that we need to develop new UI, or does it just mean we need to add new data visibility in existing UI? Sanskar, that's an awesome question. So no UI. Certainly, if you have ideas for improving the UI, we would love to see it, definitely. But for this bounty program, you can really best understand it as you're basically creating a batch of SQL queries that you then plug into the Grafana framework, and then all of that then gets powered by DevLake. So the bounty program is, at its most simple core, a series of kind of really specific SQL queries, right? So basically, you're creating a list of metrics that would create a dashboard that would be useful to an end user. So hopefully that answers your question. But that's ultimately what the bounty program is about, is creating those queries to create those metrics that would then power one of the dashboards. But no need to worry about UI, no need to worry about anything outside of those queries. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, and Lewis made a really good point. Lewis, who you guys will meet in more detail next week, actually. Lewis is the product lead on DevLake and was the person that kind of got the project kickstarted last year. So Lewis makes that great point. It's more about discovering use cases. So Sanskar, you can really think about it, I would say, in two layers, right? The first is kind of the creative brainstorming, thinking about use cases for DevLake. So, in that case, I would invite you, to just, sit down and do some thinking. Feel free to message me or anyone else in the community to think about like different ways you would use DevLake, right? The example I used, right, is to take all of the GitHub and Jira data to determine, the bugs from last week, the bugs that have been created and solved, to create a dashboard that could power kind of a weekly engineering huddle that focuses on tech debt and bugs, right? That's one example of a use case. So that's the first part, is that use case kind of brainstorming and discovery. And then the second part of that process is the SQL queries. So thinking about like what kinds of things would be kind of useful measures to understand that. So yeah, thanks for asking that question, Sanskar. And hopefully we'll get to see a template from you. Definitely feel free to ask me questions on Slack or any of the community. We'll be happy to help you get up to speed on the bounty program. So thanks for asking that question. Exactly. So Sanskar said basically back-end work, not front-end. Yes, that's a good way to think about it, is you're creating some of that back-end magic to make this work. And good old DevLake and Grafana can handle all of the front-end heavy lifting. So Hezheng, I don't know if you have anything else on your agenda. I think we managed to cover a tremendous amount today, especially impressive because we did it with all of the kind of technical challenges we had today with electrical issues and internet issues.
Yeah, it's really upsetting and unbelievable how often we get power outage in the Bay Area.
It's funny. Just yesterday, as you know, I was here in Los Angeles and I had internet issues of my own. Lewis just said that he received a message from Clash and that he's trying to join. So hopefully if Clash can join, we'll take a minute to go into those first issues again. It looks like Clash is connected. Clash, can you hear us and can you present briefly?
Yes, I can hear you. When did I drop the connection?
So you had just pulled up your screen to introduce the first issues on GitHub.
Okay. Let me go through it once again.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
Clash, are you talking? Because you're muted.
Oh yeah, Clash, you're muted. All right.
Sorry, since I cannot share my screen and my microphone at the same time. I don't know what's happening. That's weird. Okay.
No worries. Do you want to drop the link in the chat, Clash? And then maybe Hezheng, you could share the screen, and Clash, you can discuss while Hezheng shares. Does that work?
Okay, let me send the.
I probably know the link. It's just the first good issues on GitHub, right?
Yeah.
And while we do that, Vitom just dropped in the chat. Vitom, good to see you. And thanks also, Vitom. You were there yesterday on the RVL AMA and in the Slack, so you're definitely a DevLake MVP. Vitom asked an important question here. Hezheng, how do people start contributing? Maybe a quick 1-minute answer on the best approaches to begin contributing.
Absolutely. So I guess this is just what Clash is going to talk about. So we have labeled some of our issues as good first issues, and there are a couple of different types of them. In short, there is a good first issue for everyone. So So I'll give a quick intro here and then hand over to Clash. So we have some, for example, I think the easiest to start is from the documentation. If you just want to get your feet wet. And then we have, so you can see after, besides the good first issue label, we also have a type label. So these issues with type/docs label are improving documentation. So these are really easy to get started. And then another type is refactor. And then we also have bugs and the feature request. So feature request is probably taking the most time, but also depends on the size of the feature request. But I think a good start would be, maybe starting from the docs and refactor, and then gradually moving to bugs and feature request, if that makes sense. And also feel free to propose any issues, if you have some ideas. And these are just issues that we label so that there's enough good first issues for our community members, because last week we didn't provide enough and there are members asking for more. Yeah. So okay, so I'm gonna hand over to Clash to see if he has anything to add to it.
Okay, thank you. Can you go to the top of the page? Yeah. So on the top of the page, you can see we have this good first issue label pinned in at the top. So you can go to our issue page and then click on this good first issue label, and you can quickly filter out all the good first issue. Okay. Yeah. Okay. First, I will recommend you to go for the existing issue, if any, find one that you like, and then you can claim it by sending a comment like "I will take it." Okay. So you can also choose to write a plan of attack to show your understanding of the problem and what step would you take to solve the problem, and then start working on the PR for the very issue. Okay. Second, what if no more good first issue left? Just like Hezheng said, you can create your own issues. Because by looking into our code base, you can definitely find many problems like documentation, unit test, even typo, right? So you can file these issues, file any issues for things you don't feel right. And we will, the maintainer will verify if those issues are valid, and then you can start working on it, okay? Yeah. Finally, you may ask, why do I go through all these troubles to write codes for us, right? No. You don't code for us. You code for everyone in the community, and you code for yourself, for your skill to learn how to cooperate with others. And for those who made significant contribution, we offer you a seat of the Apache committer or even PPMC. Okay, that's the new plan of our good first issue. So everyone, anyone had any question? Feel free to ask.
Yeah, this is great, Clash. Waiting in case anyone does have any questions. But yeah, I think, guys, be sure to take a look at this good first issue tag. Great way to kind of see what's prioritized and hopefully, accessible ways to get started. And then certainly if you have any questions about any of these, definitely ask us on Slack. We're more than happy to help. We're more than happy to walk you through an issue, to jump in together to get started. Awesome. And then some really great chat happening in the chat as well. Sanskar being MVP here, most valuable player, with some awesome suggestions and ideas here. So we'll certainly and Nikita. Yeah, the chat is strong today, really strong. So we'll definitely make sure to to download the chat so we don't forget any of this stuff. Well, everybody, that brings us to 50 minutes today, and 50 minutes of really awesome content. So first off, I want to thank everyone for joining. I know with our international community, you know, we have people from California to Beijing and everywhere in between. Shout out to Europe, to India, to Australia. We have people from everywhere on this call. So thank you everybody for accommodating that challenging time zone. I know it's not a perfect time for everybody, but hopefully it's the best time to include everybody. So thanks also to Hezheng for making it work today. Really appreciate you, my friend. Love collaborating on DevLake together. Klesh is one of our awesome community members. Thank you so much for taking the time to present these first issues and to kind of prepare some content to discuss today. And then I want to give a couple of shout outs to some of our attendees. Some of the people I know, Alan, thanks for joining, Nikita, Sanskar, Shabam, Vitom, Yingchu, thanks for joining. Really glad to have you all here. Next week, we'll have another huddle, same time as always. In the future, we might update that time a little bit to make it work a little better for everybody. But at least for now, this will be the consistent time. So be sure to mark it on your calendars. In the meantime, we will be on Slack. We'll be answering questions. We'll be talking about first issues. We'll be updating some of the goals based off of what's happening in the chat today. Some really good things. Certainly reach out to me if you have any questions about this bounty program. I'm really excited to start seeing the work that you guys can do, and certainly excited to start paying you for that amazing work to help drive forward this program. So yeah, I think unless there are any other questions, we can conclude and finish today's meeting. Hezheng and I will of course stay on the Zoom here for a few minutes in case anyone wants to chat briefly or ask any additional questions. But otherwise, we can finish today's meeting, and thank you everybody for joining as always. We'll see you on the Slack, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.